Did you know teachers aren't humans? They're not allowed to show stress or age, have health problems, show fear, waste time, and most of all, fail. They're not even allowed to go to the bathroom. That's okay, because we're here to talk about how we're all just playing a role. And at 3 o'clock, we get to be us again. 40 years ago, two 8-year-old boys were bored out of their minds in school, and they vowed one day they would do something about it. They did it to honor their friends. They did it to honor their classmates. They did it for the love of learning. I'm Matt, and this is Rob, and 40 years later, we get our turn, but now we're playing teacher.
Keep your minds.
Recording in progress.
I told you I was born ready.
That's right. Oh man, don't say that. I'll tell you why in a minute. Don't say I was born ready. That brings up a lot of bad memories as a teacher. But anybody, welcome to Playing Teacher, everybody. I am Maddie. This is Rob here, and Beanie is joining us, fresh from a hard day of being a school counselor.
Today was pretty crazy.
It's crazy.
Yeah, today was very crazy.
Elaborate.
But I'm here. I made it.
All right. The whole show is not about Beanie. Let's go.
All right. Well, actually, she said something to me that just brought up a bad memory. You said to me, "I was born ready." So I was 30 seconds late to this class, and there's a teacher outside my door, and this is when I have a classroom, right? And so I'm sort of like I'm jetting down. I went to the bathroom. I went to fucking pee. So I'm jetting down the hall. And I'm going there. And she's just like I'm not happy with you. Like you're taking my time. And the kids are like, yeah, he's there. They're pointing down the hall. And I get there, right? And then I make a joke. She's like, "Are you ready?" And I'm like, and I say, I was born ready, as a joke. But I was like, this only stirred her up so much, like so much more. And and she look and she's about to leave, and she looks at me and she goes, "Go teach," she says to me. And it just the kids are there, so they're watching this, and it just like I never forgot that. Like it shook me up so much.
She said, "Go teach."
In front of the kids, yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Like no, but then the worst part is then you have to actually go teach, right? So you have to then bring the kids in, and and I didn't answer back after that. I took them in, right? So the kids are looking at me, and what the hell's wrong with our teacher? You know what I mean? Like that's because we got to go back to her, So like we get to leave you, but we have to go back to that lady.
What floors me about this is that you guys, you're always so accommodating to everyone, and you just had to go and pee. And I understand that teachers want their prep time and they don't want to miss any minutes, but you were always like, sure, go ahead, of course, whatever they needed.
I'm just like, do whatever, because we're humans. What's the first thing I say at the beginning of this intro, Rob? I say, did you know teachers aren't humans? It's like, it's because we really are humans. We're human beings. We have to go to the bathroom sometimes. And, it's just like, man.
Matt, what would be a nickname? Because I'm not sure who the teacher is. What would be a nickname? Don't say something that rhymes with their name.
No, and that would be the first thing I would do. No, you don't know this person, actually.
Oh, no. Oh, okay.
Yeah, actually, yeah. Brugge does. But you don't. Yeah.
I do. I don't know what type of nickname.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know if you have like a nickname for her, but
no. It's just the lady who screamed at me. Because I went to pee. It's a good thing I didn't take a shit, because then I don't know what would have happened. Anyway.
Yeah, why don't you bring us into the topic?
Okay.
I've got something queued up for us.
All right. Today is don't get screamed at when you go to the bathroom. No, it's not that. Okay. So topic today is basically pace yourself. And how do you pace yourself as a teacher when you have a time limit, or you have to accomplish something in maybe 50 minutes. You have maybe you have a teacher's objective that you need to get to by the end of the class, or not just one class over the week or the month. And um, this could have to do with your energy as a teacher. Do you take your time? Do you just rush through something because you need to get to a certain point? Do you set timers in your classroom? There's a lot of effective ways. Basically, what's the most effective pace
Yep.
for a teacher,
And then
if there is one?
yeah, there's also just the idea of pacing even without time constraints. So even if you have all if even if you are not constrained at all, just like the idea of almost like comedic timing, right? Like so what's some of the timing that's involved in the delivery of what you're trying to deliver to the kids, right?
Yeah, exactly. Um, and I don't know, like I would always greet a class in the hallway, and I would take my time at that time because I always felt like that was part of the time because I'm setting a pace for the mood almost. And and that's very important to me, establishing my relationship with them at that time. Sometimes I'll just kind of walk in the hallway and I might greet some people on the line, or if they're younger, I might say straighten up, like I got from you, Rob, and they're there and you might think like, okay, that's the pace I'm going at. Maybe a comedic role, at that point. Maybe I'm keeping it light. Maybe, so there's a lot of things, and some people might say like that's a lousy pace. You should just bring them in right away. Why are you taking an extra minute or two over there when that's taking away from educational time? I think that is educational time.
Yeah.
That's
So I mean,
building a rapport
if
with
you
your
think of
students.
that as a stage or a phase, it's like engagement, right? So there's an initial right. So whatever that looks like, whether it's out in the hallway or whether you do take them in, there is engagement, which is basically like something that's happening before, you know, whatever the lesson is that you want to teach before that kind of begins. There's something that happens before that, right?
And I knew teachers also that would almost there was one that would like get there always, and I knew his time frame because he would get there 5 minutes early, drop him off it, and then he would like pick him up 5 minutes early. So it didn't bother me because he was consistent in the time. He didn't like the time frame that like the school had almost. He wanted to be there back to his room with the books open, ready to go on the exact dot. And that's the way, and that worked for him. That's the way, that was his style. He liked to be, so he didn't like the 2 or 3 minutes you have to go in the hallway. So he just cut it out completely and just changed the time frame for him, for himself to get there. That was his pace, how to start. But then inside the classroom, how you run through a lesson, that's a whole different ball game. Some people follow step by step, follow a script step by step. And when do you stop to breathe? What and the breathing is very important. Almost stopping and taking the pulse of what's going on during a lesson. And that's kind of hard sometimes, especially during observation time when people are coming around, and you have to keep it going, keep it going, keep it going.
Yeah. Briggy, like do the kids come to your room or do you pick them up?
So it depends on their age. The younger ones I go and pick up, and then the older ones they'll walk down the hallway. If I know that they're able to come to me like quietly in the hallway and like follow the rules, not making noise, not running, then they'll come down by themselves. But I establish very early on, like when they're in kindergarten. So if I have them for 5 years, I establish the routine in my room very early on so that they know the rules, they know the routine. So
Yeah.
then it makes pacing a lot easier.
Yeah.
And I only have them for 30 minutes. So I have to establish those rules pretty like immediately.
Yeah. I guess what I'm getting at though is that if you pick them up,
Mhm.
technically like there's engagement that happens before you get to your room, right? So it's like I don't know if that pickup is part of the 30 minutes, but there's I mean because you have to walk with them then to your room,
Well,
right?
yeah, and a lot of them have behavior issues. So when I pick them up, we're yeah, I'm engaging with them in the hallways, like reviewing the rules, like how to walk. Oh, I love how you're walking. You're doing such a great job. Like a lot of positive praise me goes into when I pick them up from the room.
How much time do you guys give after you ask a question before you start talking again? So like you ask a question, and then every teacher knows this. Sometimes you get you know 30 hands that go up right away, and sometimes you get blank stares, right? So it's like um, whether the hands go up or not, like how much time do you kind of give yourself? And I know it's not exact every time, but before you kind of you know start taking answers, or if there aren't any hands up, before you kind of like go to plan B.
Depends.
That's a good question. Yeah, it depends. That's a really good question. Yeah, it depends on the student.
Wait, so you have like less students with you,
Yeah,
because
I
yeah,
don't
yeah,
have
so I would have
many.
I would have like 30. And then you sometimes have the ones that want to always answer, you know.
Yep.
Um, I think it comes down to like there's that term like you take the pulse of it, but it's really just a feel that you feel like if what feels natural, and that might not be written down in the script, you know. But it could be. I was never afraid to just let some time go, you know. I mean, and like just to let them think, you know, and that was something that I
You
fought
have
for that. I would fight for that actually because I wanted students to be able to. That's why I would arrange my room a certain way a lot of times. Like if a student wanted to stand up, and this was part of my rules, and go watch somebody else work, um, I would allow it as long as you're not disturbing like what they're doing and trying to take away from whatever they're working on. Like so if you respect, that's why I only had like three rules, and that's why I drilled it. If you were if you were safe and you were respectful, then I felt like you can accomplish those things where it wouldn't be a thing. And the student would know enough to know that they're not wasting time. Maybe they just wanted to stand up and go walk across the room and look at what somebody's doing because that's what adults do, right? Like, and then that's what people do. They could stand and go think about something for a second. But it's hard to explain that if people are in the room. Like the first reaction would be like for a lot of, you know, administrators or even paras or anybody else watching, like where's that student going? Right? Why are they going over there? And they're walking somewhere because there's a reason and they had a thought. They're not going to go and smack somebody in the head. That could happen, but they're going to go look at something and get some kind of thought process happening in their head. And then maybe that's going to contribute to whatever they're doing. And they're not stealing what they're working on. If they have that respect, they're just gathering some thoughts for a second, stretching
Matt,
their legs for a
Matt,
second.
you allowed them to do that at any
Yes.
time throughout your lesson because don't I
Not
think
in the
it's
meeting
called
when
a
you come. I'm not talking about when they walk into the room. I'm talking about when they're working, right? They were allowed to go from one side to the other side of the room
if
and
they
watch what
want
other people. Yeah, I was a big believer in
shadow
that.
another kid or
As long it was done the
don't
right
teachers
way.
do something don't teachers do something like that, but it's like they get 10 minutes to shadow another student and it's like very structured, right?
I
Don't they
didn't.
do that?
I don't know, but I didn't structure it that way.
Right.
A lot of
Yeah,
a
yeah.
lot of times they do they have timers too. Okay, everybody think for 30 seconds, go. And this is that's the pace you have, and then and stop, 30
I guess
seconds,
what I'm trying to say is I like the flow of how you're doing it. Like 5 minutes of walk of what they called like the gal don't they call it Rob, did you ever hear of this? Like a gallery walk where they walk around the class and they look at what the other students are doing?
I
Does
only know
anybody
right?
that in the
That's like it's like
context.
during the share, right? At
No,
the
I
I
only
end.
know that in
I
the
don't know.
context of PD. Like when you're like so yeah, I mean, I guess it's relative to both, but like I've been in PDs before where like you're part of a team and then your team has to like create like a poster and then you hang it on the wall in
Okay.
response to some question and then like you do the gallery walk so everyone walks around and look at everyone else's poster. You know what I mean? So,
Right.
you know, but yeah, no, I mean, yeah, I think for us, Matt and I both had freedoms in our classrooms for the kids because
Yeah.
we had good management. I mean, that's part of it too. So like, it's
Yeah.
not
Part of
something
it
that
is
every teacher can do.
also it's trust, right? And that builds a relationship. Now, if this didn't work completely, if if I had like a very, very poorly, behaved class and I've tried it several times, I would change it. And there were certain classes, or certain times of the year I was like, we're not doing any of that today because, you don't this is like just something that works over time because, when that's like my goal then for a successful management class where we can work that way, where you can have the freedom when I'm giving you the respect that you can walk across the room if you had an urge to look at something without even telling me because I trust you, you know? And and like I remember Rob in the science lab, like a lot of our goal was we remember like we would work on the lab and then we would talk about making it always, workable for them, where they can go and move things and do things, on their own, at the student level, being able to like, open things and move things. Do you remember that discussion? It was a long time ago.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I was reminded of something though, a conversation I had yesterday. So speaking of pacing, I know that like Matt, you and I talk pretty much every day, and when we talk, we say, "Oh, it's funny. Like each of us, we're listening to the episodes of the podcast that are out, and then we're talking
Right.
about funny moments or whatever." So I'm talking to Broogie yesterday, right? And she's all
Mm.
excited, right? She's like, "Now we've been doing this the last like 2 weeks." She's all excited. She's like, "Oh my god, the podcast! It's on Apple Podcasts." She just discovered this yesterday. I was like, "Yeah, it's on like a lot of things. It's on Spotify." She didn't know. She's like,
I'm like,
it's
oh,
like
is it on
on
it's on.
Spotify
She's like, "Oh, it's on
too?
Spotify too." Like,
it's on 35 different things. I'm also texting you though, like different notes on things that I saw. But was
yeah,
this after that I
this is.
told you that the other day that it was trending on FM
I think
podcasts?
that she was even late. I don't think she really looks at our messages. So I think you sent that, and then like another day or and a half went by, and then somehow I think she discovered that it was on Apple Podcasts,
I
and
saw
and
that you were.
and she wanted to inform us. Like
Like,
she's
did you know?
talk about
Did you?
I
pacing.
did
Like you and I are
I didn't
pacing. We're
it's
like
a little, yeah.
we're watching like one episode. We're listening to one thing a day, each of us. Maybe
She's
two. She's
catching
doing
up.
zero. Her pacing is way down there.
Meanwhile, I
Well,
binged like three today.
Yeah,
that okay. Well, all right, so I'll let you walk around the room then. You can
but
pace yourself around the
but this
room.
kind of reminds me like when you think about binge watching. Like so binge watching something. So there's two different kinds of shows, right? There's shows that are released weekly, which now make me crazy, and then there's ones that are just released
It's
in
just so
full, and you
good.
can binge the whole thing in a day, right?
Yeah.
I feel like this relates to teaching too in a way because I feel like a lot of teachers, not all, some are consistent. Some teachers are consistent the whole year. They never deviate. They have like this plan. It's perfect. Like no matter what happens, they seem to like stay on pace or whatever. Other ones have like hot spots, right? So they have like maybe a week or two where they're like on fire, and they're like going strong, and then and then they just collapse, and it takes like a week or two to recover, and everything goes to shit, and then they come back maybe, or it's like seasonal, like there's for some reason like in mid-November until Christmas break, it's like people just fall apart.
Yeah.
And
Right.
then but I have a clip here that I want to show that I think is super relevant to pacing.
Mm.
And this is now part of the podcast that we love doing. We gave some options to Brookie, and her response was, "I don't care." So
Mm.
then I just chose one. So here we go. I'm going to share screen. And Matt, I mean, I'm sure if you close your eyes and you listen, you'll know probably like what this is from, you know? Hold on a second. Sorry.
As a closed.
All right. Here we go. Here we go. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
There's an ad first, but sorry. It's an ad for Daredevil, by the way, which is a show that I've been watching on Disney.
Netflix, right? Or it's Disney.
I'm sorry, guys. I don't know what's happening here. We're having some technical difficulties.
Wait, while you're doing that, can I just say a thought that I had from earlier?
Yes, please
so part of so you do what you got to do. So part of like my role as a counselor, also because I work with students with IEPs.
Eyes were closed the whole time. Sorry.
What?
My eyes were closed the whole time because I kept. I was like falling asleep because I closed my eyes, so I don't know what the hell's going on. All right, go ahead, Bree. Sorry. Go ahead, Bree. Tell your story. I'm sure.
I think the clip is ready. If you can take a few minutes to laugh, I can show the clip now.
Just go.
Okay.
Forget it. Forget my thought. Go. Hey,
what the hell are you doing? What the hell are you doing?
My eyes are open. Oh. Yeah, this is a good one.
It's a great clip, Rob.
Can you hear this?
Yeah.
No.
No, I can totally hear it. He's getting tired.
I can't hear shit.
Pause it for a second, Rob. All right, now just to explain this to Broogie right now, okay? Rocky was just getting his butt kicked for the last 2 minutes. Yeah, I mean, no, not 2 minutes. Like the last, maybe like 6 minutes. The first 2 rounds of this fight, right? Mm-hmm. And right now, Clubber Lang, his pace is to go all out. And you can see he's almost out of breath. He's about to pass out. And Rocky was taking a beating before this whole time. And right now,
by the way, trainer, Matt, this is the second fight. So Rocky had lost a fight to Clubber Lang already.
Yeah, he lost in 2 rounds. Yeah. And right now,
I really think that you guys don't want me to be a part of this podcast because now this is the third podcast in a row that you have referenced Rocky ad nauseum.
Wait a minute. This is the one that you saw and liked.
What are you talking about?
Isn't this the one Rocky movie that you said that you enjoyed?
mentioned Mr. T and Dolph Lundgren. That was Rocky 3 and Rocky 4.
I can't see the clip. I can't hear the clip. I don't know what the hell is going on.
He picked this for you.
I didn't even hear. I couldn't hear anything.
I don't know. It sounds perfectly clear to me. All right, sorry. Okay. I was just trying to explain why this is very important to pacing during a class. Clubber Lang has basically, he has almost no air left, right? You could see. And Rocky is taking a beating, and he's trying to explain and his trainer's getting very upset with him. Like, you're doing, why are you just letting him treat you this way? And this is a big example of pacing. Put it back on.
Don't tell me what you think! Go out there and do it, Rob. Eye of the tiger. You understand? Yeah. Go out there and knock his head off. He's just a man, Rob. Just a man, right?
Go out there and knock his head off. He's just a man, Rock. Eye of the tiger.
Up and down, side to side.
I like it, but in the beginning, well, since Broogie can't hear it, let's kind of reenact it for her. What the hell are you doing? What the hell are you doing?
We could just kind of, strategy, that's all. I know it. No, you don't know what you're doing. You're the champ. He's mine.
If you stand toe to toe with him, he's going to kill you.
Yeah, because we're saying.
He's getting tired. He's getting tired.
Don't waste your punches. You're the champ. Don't try to.
I know what I'm doing, I swear. Don't tell me what you think.
And do it. Eye of the tiger. Just let you tell the students.
Yeah.
Don't tell me what you think.
So, Broogie, that one was for you. Since you didn't care, we chose one that we thought you might like. But we don't know. Maybe next time you'll have some input.
Gee, thanks.
Um, but that is the
I guess I guess when I said I don't give a shit, I really did give a shit.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. And now next
You
time
showed me.
you'll choose your words differently. We
Well,
originally that
I think there's a reason why this is shown, why we chose this clip, right? Like, so basically there's two forms of thinking going on. And when, when you have students in the class, right? The way you teach a class, if you teach it, you're going to have a lot of people processing information a lot of different ways, right? So to give everything you have, or do you slow up at some times? As Rob said, how long do you give them to actually breathe? And Clubber Lang there, he did everything he had. He couldn't breathe at that point. And Rocky at this point, he had a strategy, right? So there's a lot of different ways people approach a fight, right? And there's a lot of different ways people are thinking in the class as you're trying to teach them. But you, as the teacher, have to decide how are you going to pace what you're doing, so that all the minds in the class can process what you're doing at that time.
Yeah. And let me just make a point too. Like, so, you know, we recognize that in a lot of places, in a lot of schools, there are a lot of teachers that are bound by a pacing calendar. So it's not, you have no choice. Like, so basically, you're going to get written up if you deviate from the pace that has been determined, right? And that could be based on the curriculum, it could be based on whatever. So, and a lot of times, like an entire grade will meet every week, and everyone will make sure that everyone is still on the same page. So we get that, but for a moment, just imagine a world where that's not the case and where you have the freedom to do your own pacing, right? I think things would look a little bit differently. So instead of teachers going into a week thinking, I have to cover these standards and these vocabulary words, and I have to give these assessments, and I have to I have to check all these boxes. Like, it would become more about, having a goal, like having an intention, but then, like Matt said, deviating from that when you need to. So, like, if you're asking, I asked that question before about how long do you wait? If I ask a question to whether it's one kid or 30 kids, you know, if in my mind I'm thinking they're not, they're not getting this, right? First of all, I think it's my fault. I don't blame them for not knowing the answer, right? But then the first thing I think is like, okay, I'm not gonna sit here and stare at them until someone attempts to give me an answer that's probably going to be wrong. It's like, you have to regroup at a certain point and shift everything backwards. Like, so how far back do I have to go before I, you know, hone in on something that they recognize so that we can start having a dialogue and the dialogue being a question and answer that's going back and forth, so
Would you change everything that you're doing in a moment's notice because the pace wouldn't fit what administrators need to see in 15 minutes? Or would you just follow your gut instinct and keep it the way you had it?
what do you mean? Say that again.
Would you change everything that you were doing because you're getting observed for 15 minutes, and you didn't know what was happening, and you feel that the pace would not be something that they can understand, and you're going to be evaluated on it? Or would you just trust your gut instinct and follow, go in with what had planned
I've,
and
I've
written?
yeah, no, I've had this happen before where I'm going off of my instinct, and then basically in the post observation write up and talk, it was kind of like, there was a question about, not connecting, not starting off that day's lesson connecting to the previous day. This is not a day, actually, we see them once a week, so the previous week's lesson, or not tying something into something else. And I had to, and I don't take that nonsense. I had to correct the person basically and say, you're thinking in terms of like a very like strict silo kind of. You're thinking that like that my teaching exists like one class to the next. Like you're thinking of a single class period as a unit kind of. And I said that's not how it works. Like that's not how my pacing works. Like I may have
Let
seven
go.
seven class periods that I take. Well, I'll tell you how it went after. I may have 7 class periods that I take, which means 7 weeks. I may have 7 class periods that I take where I'm trying to accomplish something, And so it's not a start. It's not there's not a beginning and an end for every single class session. There's a beginning at the beginning of the first one, and the end is at the end of the seventh one. And so like I have a plan in mind that takes me from point A to point B. So I'm not gonna pretend like I'm doing 7 individual lessons because that's not what I'm doing. I'm doing a long lesson that takes much more than one class period, right? And so, you know, the reason why I'm able to like give that feedback back, I don't know how much you're aware of this, Matt, but in New York, there are 4 state tests, right? Or at least there were. It was English or literacy, math, science, and social studies. And science, math, and literacy would all happen in 4th grade. I think social studies happened in 5th grade for whatever reason. Really, whatever reason. I'm not sure why the other ones happened in 4th grade, but so
I think science was changed to fifth.
maybe, yeah.
Yeah, they just changed it a couple of
Okay.
years ago.
Which is a much better idea, but essentially if you are in a school and the kids in that school fail or like their overall score for the school for literacy and math is like under, what do you call it, Brugi? It's like underperforming or whatever.
Hmm.
Um
Yes.
then the school typically the school, and if that happened a certain number of years in a row, the school could be taken over basically. Like it would become a school under review, right? The
Right.
principal a lot of times would get fired. They would bring in someone new. Then they would interview all the staff. They would replace staff. So the district would basically take over the school.
Which
So,
explains sometimes the pacing calendar that they have, but at the same point, that might be actually the kiss of death in some situation. Are you actually getting what you need from everybody? Is this pacing calendar going to help them pass that test?
but
Think
there was
back to
a
when they gave us the FOSS kits and it didn't match. We were following that to a T, but then by the time we gave them the science test, they never even got to the water cycle, which was like 25% of the
yeah,
exam
that was only
because that
one
was like
year.
the let. Yeah.
But I didn't finish though. This is the best part of this. The best part of this,
Go ahead. Sorry.
if we had a school where the kids were failing in both math and literacy, but if the kids are passing science, you are saved. You enter
The
into something
school
called
is saved.
you enter into something called safe harbor, where you
Mhm.
don't get taken over, principal doesn't get fired, and basically you're riding you're riding the line basically. But so because our kids had more than 80% passing rate in science, even though they were failing math and literacy, right? So because science saved the school and put it into safe harbor, the administrator said to me, I don't know what you're doing, but keep doing it. Right. So it's like, so then there's no leverage, right? There's no, you know, and then, after a few years, there was that one year where the FOSS kit was purchased under the Bloomberg administration, which was a disaster, a fucking disaster, for education anyway. And they spend $67 million on the FOSS kits, and they send us to trainings, and then they say, you remember, this is when you were there. This is when, you remember. You have to follow this to the letter. Like, don't deviate from that. And then we did it. We did it exactly like they said. And the scores dropped from like 80 to like 57% passing. You know what I mean? Because, like you said, it was a garbage curriculum that didn't work. The pacing was off.
Didn't match the test,
Well, not
but
what it didn't match was the population. It was designed and meant for kids in a different, like in an area
Right.
where
They
they
don't
get
take care.
yeah, in
Right.
an area where they get science instruction every day, not once a week, and in an
yes.
area, and in a more rural area too.
Right. They don't
So
take into consideration the right
right,
the demographics.
Matt and I developed like an urban science curriculum for our population that worked very well. That
Yeah, I
uses
remember
the
that.
FOSS materials, which were great, but not in the way that they had it scripted.
And we did it with
Our way.
we oh no we were like guys from Top Gun. We did it like on the beach together.
But
Yeah.
I just
That is true story,
We
by the way.
like we wrote the curriculum on the beach.
but I like Matt's question. Matt's question was, when they came in to observe, did you change your pacing? Did you change how you normally
Well,
teach?
can I let me say something. And there was a reason also. I'm thinking about that now. I remember that I got observed actually when I was teaching science, and this was the lesson that I had planned. I love this lesson, right? Because it just gives them time to think. It was just turning on a light bulb. It was the
Yeah.
beginning part of electricity
Mm-hmm.
when they're just given like the wires and they're given the bulb and they have to figure it out.
Yep.
And I'm like, all right, here. They take their tray and and I'm like, go. You go figure it out. And then all I had was then I was like, well, we're not going to talk about it today. We're just going to do that.
Right.
And then if you figure it out, you go to step two and nobody else can see. You go to this other area. And then I made it even harder. They were turning on like two light bulbs or something like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was the whole class. And then I'm getting observed. And then and then the AP walked in at the time. Remember, I'm getting observed. And then the only advice I gave, the only instruction I gave a para was don't help him. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
don't tell him how to do, you know what I mean? And that was very, very important because I'm like, well, no, that's what her job is to do is to help him, like, no, he has to sit and think and figure this out. I was like, what if it's frustrating? I'm like, but that's the whole point. It's frustrating for all of them, but in a good way. It's a good frustration.
Yes.
Of course, they're sitting and thinking for a while. So it was like silence as I'm getting observed during this. I didn't ask them questions. And, I put my balls on the line here because I'm like I came in and they were just, what are you going to write? They just sat and fiddled with wires for the whole time. It was actually written up. And I remember we talked about it. I got it satisfactory. It was before Danielson. But I didn't change it. I just kept it the way it is. And I just walked around and kids would be like, can you just show, how do you do it? And I'm like, think, and
See,
just
I
go back,
love that. I love that because so
and that,
many.
that's and there's so much you want to help them do it, and it was like that was like that one lesson I remember. It was like I'm not going to help you at all. You know what I mean? And if you
Yep.
figure out, but when they finally do, right?
Oh.
There was such a sense. Oh man, it's
Yep.
amazing, right, Rob? And then they're like ready to go on to the others, and the others are just inspired to try to figure this out. Like how? But when they finally get it, I'm like, oh yeah, and like it's just an exercise for their brain how to do this, and you got to fight the urge. And I would kept telling the parent, like, don't help him. He's gonna get it. I'm telling you. Even if he gets it later, let him try to figure it out because you're gonna take away that feeling of when they can accomplish something with their mind.
Yeah.
So
It's
So if during Danielson and when they changed the observations, like if
Mm.
could you do a lesson like that during observation? Were you able to?
I don't
Were you
know.
able to?
I
no,
mean, because
because
I wasn't teaching science when I was teaching theater.
Oh,
When that got theater kind of lend itself to Danielson. I have found that I can stretch it to all the different things, that they were doing. Um, I don't know.
no
I can't really answer that question. I don't
during
know what I would have done
Danielson
at that point.
during Danielson they would explicitly say this round of observations we're specifically looking for this thing. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so whether you know that's not how Danielson is supposed to work anyway. Like it's like every single thing on the checklist isn't supposed to be happening every single time you teach every single day, but you know they're basically inventing a way that they can go through this checklist, and so that involves saying this is what we want to see. And so no matter what you were teaching or trying to teach or doing when they came in, you had you had to do that thing. Otherwise they're gonna mark it down as you not having done that thing, you know?
right.
So in other words, like the day that they come in for an observation becomes a wasted day. You know what I mean? Because it's something you have to deviate from the flow that you're in. Like if I was in that 7 day stretch or whatever and I'm working on something and the kids are in the flow state and they're totally into the thing, I have to take a break from that to do this like side quest basically with the kids, which is
I
to,
had
you know,
I had a professor when I was doing my admin who said that when they were getting observed, they would literally pull down like the old school maps, right? they would pull down one of the screens to cover what they were actually teaching the class, how they were actually teaching, so that
Mhm.
when they were being observed, they had a lesson like ready to
Mhm.
cover all those checkpoints. And then when the observer left the classroom, they would roll up that screen or that map, and then they were able to teach them the way they wanted to teach.
Yeah. I
They
mean,
were like, it's
it's,
all a show. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, during that time period, I'd basically, even when the kids were sitting, I would sort of like look into the hallway and just, okay, no one's coming around. I would watch the time, at certain points, and that would change. It sucks, man. It would change, but I have to say, it did change my pacing because I was always probably on guard
Yeah.
to show them the 15 minutes I need to show them to just, you know, is it going to make a difference in your job? No. But in our minds as teachers, we always think, if you see them twice a year and that's the only thing they're going to go by, it's almost like an ego thing also. You don't want to suck during that time. And a lot has to do with the pacing of how you do things. So I would still do the same thing, but I would sort of like just look over just to make sure, you know, no one's coming in. If they're next door, forget about it. It's very hard to go through what you were planning, knowing if they're coming in during the time you're watching the time. I'm like, shit, they're gonna come in like the last 15 minutes, and this is the time when I was like, oh, this is gonna get a little out of hand, and it's not gonna be what they need to see to make this go effective, and the whole thing's a pain in the ass.
there's also like burnout, right? So like if you're forget about observations, like if you're teaching and you have the kids in the class, like there are just times of the year or times that, or just some random times, depending on
Mm.
maybe how exhausted they are from like from their typical
This is
teacher or from
this is a
whatever's
very good
going on.
point.
And
Very good
so
point.
like,
Yeah.
there's times when I'm trying to get through something and I realize that they're just not in that they're not in the mindset on that day, right? And even it doesn't have to be every single kid, but if, like 20 out of 30 kids are just like,
A
you
week
know,
before the holiday,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know
yeah,
what I
right.
mean?
You can tell that they're just out of it. Like it's,
Rob, what did we do a week before the holiday when we were doing science together?
oh, you mean Starlab or yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
We
So,
we 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 closed down the whole lab, and every single class just went into the Star Lab.
yeah. Well,
Like
because we
whether
had them
you had a class,
once a week, so every
yeah.
class got to go in
So
that
we
Star
we
Lab, right?
agreed that your classes and my classes would just use the Star Lab
We're
that
not
week.
trying to get through content, we're not trying to
No.
get through the curriculum. Like we're just, we're taking we're
Yeah.
doing something special, you know what I mean? And it
Yeah.
wasn't a reward, it was just like a surprise basically,
But but it's also because we knew where their mindset was
Yeah.
also. So might as well use it if they're out to lunch at that point and they're just thinking about all these different things. That's the perfect time to just use that energy and do something special, in an educational way.
But speaking
Yeah,
of
that's
face
totally.
speaking of pacing, Broogie, are you at your house yet or are you still in traffic?
No, I'm still driving.
You still
Still driving.
what do you take? Do you take the LIE?
I take the Sunrise. I take the Conduit, and then I pass JFK Airport, and now I'm on Sunrise Highway.
I mean, I don't know,
It's the worst.
wherever people are, unless they're in LA maybe, but wherever people are, like just understand that we're getting we're getting this quality contributions from Broogie in the midst of her sitting in some of the worst traffic
Ever.
in the country, probably, right? Like trying to get out to Long Island or like basically like Long Island to Queens or Manhattan traffic, every day
I-
at
I'm
rush
gonna
hour.
I'm gonna read something about Brugge that I saw online.
Oh,
Oh no.
okay.
And hang on a second. Um,
Gives me an idea too.
okay,
Guys, do
give me a second here. If I can
turning my
find
camera
this.
on for this.
Oh my gosh.
So everybody could see me driving. Hi
Yeah.
everyone.
Keep your eyes on the road.
Yeah.
I can't find it.
like last week where you're like, guys,
Oh wait, no,
hold
here,
on.
here it is. All right, wait.
I had to go upstairs and get
Wait,
my
wait.
paperwork.
I got it. Wait, Beanie, a school. This is off one. Beanie, a school counselor and recurring co-host, offers a unique perspective from both inside and outside the classroom.
Is that from our podcast blurb?
No, that's like it was like written about you.
Yeah, you guys wrote it.
Well, that was on AI.
No, I don't think we wrote. I don't think we did write that. I think that was like looking up the podcast on ChatGPT, and this is what
Wait, you guys didn't write that blurb?
No,
no.
Shut
there's a
the fuck up. I
no.
thought you
There's
guys
like
wrote it.
there was like I'm trying to find like a review about you, and it mentions you.
I think it's
Yeah.
really funny that that you didn't write it, that AI now equates me with Beanie. That is my
Yeah.
my name.
Wait, here it is. Wait. Here it is. Wait, listen to this. Podcast Addict Reviews praised the podcast for offering a non-brochure version of school and highlighting the experiences of teachers and students. Some reviewers specifically mentioned the value of co-host Beanie's insights as a school counselor.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, you are pulling my chain.
He
wrote
is
this shit.
He's showing you the evidence right now. It's on.
I don't know. Can you see this?
And if you think that Matt somehow created a dummy version of ChatGPT and populated it with this text, then you are mistaken, ma'am. You are mistaken.
I'm crying.
Good job, Beanie.
That's great. Thanks.
Matt, can I
didn't
read you
want to tell
something?
but the reviewer was Herbie, though. Yeah, I wrote it.
Matt, can I
Good
read you
job,
something?
Beanie.
I thought you said
Yeah.
the reviewer has herpes. I was like, what? How do you know that?
A very active lifestyle. You don't have herpes, Herbie.
So Matt and the audience too, I'd like to read you something that I found online.
Oh God.
I believe that
What's
all
that?
students have the potential to reach mastery academic, social, and emotional levels. As a school counselor, it is my goal to assist our youth to grow exponentially. I am met with different experiences daily, and collaboration is an important part of my position. Counselors work closely with parents, students, staff, and administration to provide enriching opportunities for students. It is important to continuously educate yourself on the craft of counseling and beyond. That is why I chose to go back to school for my administration license.
Wait, where is that?
This is on your LinkedIn page.
I'm inspired. I might just become an AP now. Oh, that's not gonna happen.
So
Oh God.
yeah, that's something that I'm assuming you wrote on your own LinkedIn page. That's what that is. Wait, can I ask a question too? And I know we're way off. I mean, we've demolished
I don't
the
remember what
pacing topic.
we
but
watched Clubber Lang, and then we talked about pacing.
I do have an analogy to pacing though. So
Mm.
have you ever you've been to an amusement park, right? Like Disney World or a Great Adventure or something, right?
Sure.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
like there's an example of a place where you want to have some sort of a pacing schedule. Like I want to accomplish like, so if you're there 1 day or 2 days or 3 days, you have a map and you have maybe certain rides you want to go on or certain attractions you want to see, certain foods you want to eat. Like, so there's, and you're there for a certain number of hours per day. We're going to get there at this time. We're going to leave at this time. Right. So what people may not know is that Jeannine Beanie is a travel expert, basically, but specifically for Disney. Am I right?
Disney is one of them. Yes.
Like you like
Yeah,
you
one of
have
the
like
things
you have like a
Yeah.
Disney certification or something.
Yes, that is correct. Yes.
And what is that?
Disney plan. I'm a travel planner. Yeah.
But what is the Disney thing called? Is it like a certified?
Yeah, like I have a certification in Disney planning. Yep. So,
She's the
and
best.
everything that you just said, like that's a perfect analogy for pacing. Like when you go to an amusement park, the rides that you want to go on, the food that you, the schedule that you maybe want to create. Like I help people with all of that.
But I mean, so but, like I guess a huge thing though is too is in that condition, like the people are paying a lot of money to go to the thing, right? To go to the park, right?
Yes.
So like
Yeah.
they have like an investment um in this, right? So like they have an investment, and the pacing schedule is like a way for a person to feel like they've gotten the most out of their like spending out of their
Right. So like
vacation,
you
right?
want to, right. And you want to create a schedule for them so that they feel like once they get there, they're not spending their entire time actually planning and saying like,
Yeah.
oh my God, where do I go? What do I have to do? Like my role is to help them before they arrive.
And then what it reminds me though is like of if you now when kids go to school, it's a little bit different. Like it's not like especially in a public school, it's not like the kids are paying to be there, right? So it's like a lot of times they don't want to be there, right? So it's like when I'm thinking about
Right.
the planning that we do that goes into the experience that we give them, like we've talked about this before, but it goes into like designing the entire room in such a way that they're just interested when they walk into it, right? Regardless of what they're
Right.
going to do in there, they're just like, holy shit, like this room is
Yeah.
cool.
And what you had said earlier about like burnout, I was thinking about kids coming in and like their setting event is like they're coming from, you know, the community that I currently work in. It's like they're coming from maybe lower income or maybe single parent, or they don't have food on their table, they didn't have breakfast.
Yeah.
So like all of that is also has to be taken into consideration as a teacher, and you know, whatever,
Yeah.
as a teacher, right?
Well, then,
Yeah.
then there's just like the amount of time that is. So I guess it's like, and Matt, like from an acting perspective too, if you think about like a Broadway show or something, or an off Broadway show, it's almost like all of that stuff that goes into the performance day, which is like the set design, the script, the practice, like the music. There's a million things that go into basically a performance that might only be half an hour or less, right? Even if
Right.
it's a 15-minute performance, you have like weeks and weeks and weeks of preparation that go into that. And I feel like people don't understand that one because that's similar to teaching. So if
Yeah.
I've done lessons
Well,
before.
especially a
Yeah,
director is almost like your teacher because they're working
right.
with you, you know. Like so, I'm directing a play, you know. Right now, like my actors are just, you know, we have time, we have some time, so they're just getting off book, you know. That's a whole process in itself, just memorizing, you know, their lines and everything, and then you have, you know, the music you have to figure out. You have to decide the set, as you said, Rob. You know, there's a lot that goes into, you know, any kind of thing like that. But pacing, you know, is a big part of it. You know, what do you want? What do you want the actors to work on now? You know, then you had to talk about blocking. Everything's a step-by-step process that goes into it, and you don't want to overwhelm people as well. And you want to get the best out of. It's almost like you want to get the best out of your students. You want to get the best out of your actors as a director.
Yep. And like it reminds me, and I'm going to tie this back to Disney for a second because Matt and I, you know this because we both had the same experience, but there are lessons that we do that, first of all, I think when either of us do a lesson, that's the last time that lesson will ever happen like that, the same in the same exact way, because there's always something to improve. So like by the time like if I've been doing a lesson for 8 years, it's been evolving over 8 years and getting better and better and better. And it doesn't mean that the first kids that ever got it got gypped out of something, but it means that those kids in year 8 are getting something extraordinary, right? And it's like, and Bree, do you know what the Walt Disney word is for the constant strive to make things better?
No,
It's you can anyone out there can look this up. It's plussing, right? So Walt Disney coined the term plussing as a way of making an idea even better. So by telling his workers to plus it, even when they think they've nailed it, it's something that gave like Disney an edge over everything, like
How
especially
the hell did you know that? Did you?
well,
He looked it up.
well, no,
Look
no,
it up.
I'm reading that, but I've known of the word plussing for years. I've used the word
No, I
plussing.
believe you. I believe.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
No, I mean I originally read it somewhere. I think I read something about like 10 reasons that make 10 reasons why Disney was so successful or something. But one of those reasons was plussing, right? So if you look up the word plussing, you'll see a million things on it. You'll see videos on it. You'll see
I've never
No, I
heard
like
of
it.
plussing, but I've heard of people saying like it's not like make it quote unquote like make it better, make it better. So like whatever you're doing,
That's not one word
you
though. Yeah, I
well,
think he's
what?
trying to put it into one word.
I no, I know that. I'm just saying. So like I didn't know it was. I didn't know that was a term.
he coined it back in the 40s, but I'm going to give you a little bonus here, Broogie. So, okay. There's a term called plussing it. It's a registered trademark, plussing it. And it's for travel agents. And let's see. The Plussing It membership provides travel agents that specialize in Disney and Universal destinations with a done-for-you social media posting plan each month, customizable copy and images, self-paced core training in sales, marketing, and business development, and monthly bonus content designed to expand your audience, increase sales, and provide stellar service. Boom.
Wow.
That's for you. I just found it.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll look into it.
And it's on a site called Get Down to Disness.
Oh,
Get
like what they
down
did
to
there.
instead of get
business.
down to business.
Yes.
That's so good.
So, yeah.
It's none of your business.
It's none of your business. That's very clever.
But
Are you saying that I have to up my social media game?
no, it's funny that it's funny that you should. What I just heard, Matt, is that she wants to take over the social media for the podcast.
No, that is.
Okay.
That's
We're
what I
gonna
heard.
start working on some
Travel
Instagram.
Is that what you heard?
We had some Instagram we were gonna start.
Yeah. We made our
you
Instagram
can-
page, our Facebook page. We have our Twitter,
Yeah.
and we
Wow,
just
Yeah.
we
need.
don't have any of that. Wait.
Yes,
like,
we. Oh, wait. Did you just say we don't have any of that, Matt? Because
Wait,
We have
I'm pretty sure I
That
spent
goes like this. Yeah,
like
Matt
8
calls me
hours yesterday
goes,
setting
"Did
it
you
all up.
Buzzsprout just sent us, that we had 75 subscribers.
Who?
Buzzsprout,
Buzzsprout, the place where we host all
Where
of
our
our
website
podcasts, and no,
you don't know about
not ringing a
Buzzsprout?
bell.
Calls me yesterday and goes, "Did
It's
you
time for
post
Broogie
this?"
to get more involved in the podcast. You are the new social media manager. Congratulations.
Congratulations! No way.
You don't know
did-
you don't know about Buzzsprout, Priggy?
I have no idea what you're saying.
I send you the
Is that a
picture
word? Is that
that
a word?
about the 75 subscribers that Buzzsprout sends. They said congratulations, and I sent a picture to you guys.
Matt, you called me or texted me yesterday about something that had to do with Facebook, and I don't go on Facebook. And you were like, "Really?"
Oh, I sent
have
the
one.
picture. Yeah, I said, look.
And then you're like, "Who posted this?"
Yeah, I said,
I
I said,
I didn't.
yeah,
do it.
I was wondering if one of you posted it, or like to let me know. So I was letting you know it was there.
Thanks.
Get it? It's there.
So when we're talking about plussing in animation, what they describe it is everyone who grabs the ball in production runs with it, advancing the film toward the goal of perfection. That's like back in the 40s when animation was starting, right? So it kind of reminds me of Endgame when they were trying to get the Thanos's, what was it called, the gauntlet,
Yeah.
to the van or whatever, and they kept passing it off from one superhero to the next, and they're trying to advance it to the thing. But yeah, so now I think we've all learned a lot today. We've learned about plussing. We've learned about Jeannine Brugge being an expert in Disney, but not knowing the word plussing. So it's
And to sum
I'm going
all
to
of
see
this up,
Thunderbolts on Saturday night. By the way.
and that's how we summed it up. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for wrapping up everything neatly with a bow about pacing with that little end comment there. Thank you.
And it's my dog. It's my dog's birthday today, so happy birthday to Abby.
Happy birthday, Abby.
Happy birthday, Abby.
You gonna get Abby a puppuccino?
Matt, you want to walk us out of here?
Nah, she's not gonna have puppuccino. She'll maybe some cool treats. I don't think I'll give her a puppuccino though. Stomach, she's 11, but give her some juicy things though. Sure. Make sure that you pace yourself, whatever you're doing out there, and that's all for Playing Teacher. And I'm Matt here with Rob and Beanie, of course, who is very well known on Podcast Addict, as we just heard today. And we'll see you next time. Thanks very much.
Hey, bye.
Bye.